Okay, welcome back to day 2 of Empower 2014. Congratulations to all the Run Smarter Award winners. What an achievement. My name is Linda Ding. I'm the Education Program Strategist at Laserfish. It is my great pleasure to introduce our honored panelists from Washington Student Achievement Council. So we have on the panel, if you could stand up so that they all know you. Uh, From left to right, we have David Mitchell, Chief Technology Officer of Washington Student Achievement Council. Next to David is Kim Porter, Records and Project Manager. Next to Kim is Shakib Kamal, who is a Solutions Architect at Washington Student Achievement Council. Thank you. So like all the organizations, Washington Student Achievement Council uses Laserfish to automate key business processes for better operational efficiency. And they achieve this by integrating Laserfish with their student information system. And I know that the integration sometimes could be a very daunting task. So I invited the team here to share their approach with us. So please join me in welcoming Washington Student Achievement Council team.
Hi, I'm David Mitchell, Chief Technology Officer for the Washington Student Achievement Council, and talk a bit about our agenda for today. Who we are, we're a small state agency in Washington State, and we deal with higher education policy. Our former name used to be the Higher Education Coordinating Board. We're now the Student Achievement Council, kind of focus on more of a focus on students at all levels instead of just higher education. And we deal with a lot of policy, but where the IT area is really involved is in financial aid systems. So we have about, I think, 16 financial aid programs ranging from fairly small targeted programs to quite large programs. And where we've really been involved with Laserfish has been with our largest program, the Guaranteed Education Tuition Program. And so that's the one that where we got started really with imaging and then moved on to Laserfish, and really drives a lot of what we do. We'll also, so I'll cover how we got started with Laserfish, go over some stuff about how we've integrated Laserfish with our existing systems. We do have basically a tailored version of Banner for those in the higher ed world. It's a very common student information system. We have used workflows to really streamline the process, and once again, the GET program started with doing most of the workflows, and we're kind of expanding to other areas of the agency and trying to kind of leverage what they've done and kind of build on the in-house expertise that they've developed there. And then one of the reasons, one of the big features that we were looking for when we went with Laserfish in 2010 was when we kind of, late 29 is when we selected the vendor and really did implementation in February of 2010. And so the Laserfish .NET Software Development Kit was a big component for us. That was something we were really looking to tie in with our existing websites. And because we are a state agency, we get our directions from the legislature, so the financial aid programs are unique. There is no, Microsoft, financial aid administration that package that we can buy. So we're really we're in it for the long haul. We have to develop these things and make use of the tools that are available. So a bit about how we got started with Laserfish. When I got to our agency in about 2001, they had an existing imaging system that came from SET, the maker of Banner at the time. They've since changed their name and had a few corporate mergers and things like that going on, but still the same company, really, same product. So the old tool was a VB program that worked at the time, but was very simple, and basically I think the source code was gone, and so it worked, and each new version of Windows that we got, we had kind of a more challenging process to try and get it working again, to the point where you're like running the batch file that copies the DLLs from 2003 to make it work. So and we kind of limped along like that for a while until it finally stopped. And we'd been planning to look for a better imaging system for some time, and but that finally forced the issue. We needed to find something to replace what was basically failing. So when we looked around, the GET program did a lot with the RFP, and also Shakib from our IT team was really focusing on that some kind of SDK that he could use. Laserfish, came out. Our reseller was Cities Digital. They've been great. They've been very kind to us, and they came out with a really competitively priced bid. Worked really well for us. We've had good support from them, but also from Laserfish. So coming here to this conference, this is my first conference, but several people in our group have been here for several years, and so they come back with a lot of ideas every time. And so I like to hear that there's a good, strong product direction, that they're picking up new features from all of you and from all of us, and really responding to the customers. So, and then we really like the .NET SDK, because like I said, we have our own existing websites, and we're always looking for ways to kind of streamline and make things work better, because in general we just keep getting more work and very seldom actually get more staff to go along with it. A bit about sort of my view as the CTO of where Laserfish fits in. On the top end is custom .NET web apps. We love them. You can really tailor it to do exactly what you want, but they are expensive to develop. And once you develop them, you own them. So there's the ongoing maintenance. It's quite an undertaking, and we use them where we can, but you can't do everything yourself. And then at the bottom end is the paper. Has some advantages. It's low technology. You don't have to train people to use paper. They pretty much understand it already. But it's very cumbersome. You have to store it. It's not good means of retrieval. It's at the bottom as far as I'm concerned. And that leaves Laserfish as what I call our sweet spot, and it's worked really well for us. Like I said, we've been trying to leverage what we already have and keep adding on, and we keep coming up with different ideas. Like, well, if we could do this, that would eliminate that piece of paper and put it directly in the database. And so, Laserfish has a lot of tools that we're looking to make use of. Some that we already have, and a lot that we haven't yet. So I'm really excited to be here and hear a lot of ideas from people, and be looking into a lot of new stuff as we go forward. As far as integrating with existing applications, one of the first places we started was with QuickFields, and might actually be able to do this a little differently now. I think workflows can also do some of this stuff, but at the time this was the best solution. And just things like taking an account number from a system and using QuickFields to query our Oracle database and pull back name information, SSN, that kind of thing, which didn't turn out to be that difficult to do, and meant that there's no rekeying, there's no data entry errors. It's fast. It does this lookup all at once, and so that was our first kind of win in terms of integration. Then, as I mentioned, I'll let Shakib cover more of the .NET SDK stuff, but web-based form submission, I'll go over that a bit more as well, and support tickets, and I'll leave that to Shakib as well. We also have made good use of the workflows, and Kim Porter will talk quite a bit about that. She and Melissa, another staff person here, have really picked that up and run with it, and really they've been coming to these conferences for, I think, this 4th year in a row. So they really have come back with a lot of ideas, and then take that and use that to build a workflow that really streamlines things. And they're probably they're the one we're trying to emulate in other areas of the agency. Because at this point, everything comes in, gets scanned, and just gets handled electronically, from there. And other areas were varying levels of success. So we still have plenty of room to go and to grow. One of the things, some of the advantages, obviously it cuts down on the time for processing to have things electronic, prevents lost, misrouted paperwork, that kind of thing. And adds a search capability that you just really don't have with our paper filing cabinets. As far as ongoing improvements, what we're looking at is for web-based forms. So an example of this might be like a change of account ownership form or something like that for one of our financial aid programs. In the past, it'd be like a PDF document on the website, and customers would, click on it, download it, fill it out, stuff it in an envelope, put a stamp on it, and send it in to us. Then it would get scanned and dropped into Laserfiche and picked up by a workflow. And so the new version of that is that using our existing website and the .NET SDK, we can basically take that, so the customer fills out the form online, clicks submit, and it creates a PDF and drops it right into Laserfiche. And so at that point, you've taken days out of the process instead of this whole system going through the mail. It's right in the database. It fills out the metadata in the forms in the template. The customer has entered it. There's no rekeying. There's no errors. So that's an example of the kind of stuff that I'm really looking to do more of. And so Shakib's gotten a good start on it just in the last 6 months or so. And now we've already spread. Just even a couple weeks ago, we released another version of that. So we're going to keep building that same kind of stuff. And another example that I mentioned that we just implemented, actually I think it was about a month ago, is around a lot of financial aid programs they make payments. We're giving out a lot of money to students and to institutions, so we got a lot of payments going out. And sort of the old process would be they do this all the work electronically. The schools would log in, request funds. People would process things electronically, and the final step for the payment, and there'd be a bulk payment that was uploaded to the Washington State financial system. And but the final step for the user making that payment at our agency would be to print out a batch header, get some signatures, they'd sign it, get an approval, walk it over to the accounting, and put it in a box. And at that point, somebody else gets that, verifies that the electronic version that they're seeing matches what's on the batch header, and they go from there and release the payment. And there's all kinds of things that ties into, continuity of operations has been a big thing in Washington State. So looking to, if there's a flu pandemic or something like that, how do you operate core state services, even if people might need to work from home? And so that step where you print that batch header out and have to walk it over is not something that you can do if people are not in the agency. So it ties that there's a lot of stuff driving this. So the new process is, once again, using the .NET SDK. We were able to do that electronically and fire off an email to the accounting department with all of the approvals that have been collected, and then drop the document straight into Laserfiche with the metadata filled out. There's no rekeying. There's no anything. So it's we're trying to make that process as efficient as possible and just go straight to where it needs to go. And once it's been reviewed by accounting, they actually attach some documentation that comes back from the statewide system once the payments have been generated. Attach it, change the status on it, and it automatically goes into our records retention, our records management, and is done. So that's, I think, at least for that section, about as efficient as you can get. So we've got a lot of other stuff we can do, but it's been very powerful to make use of these tools, and really has gone a long ways towards improving the process at our agency. The biggest wins, once again, time savings, both for staff and for customers. Like the customers are filling out those forms and mailing them in the past. At this point now, it's a much improved process in terms of time, and also the accuracy of the data. Once again, let the customers fill in the information once and don't rekey it again. Don't bother scanning it. Don't do anything with it. Just let them do it once and put it where it needs to go. Future enhancements, and this gets into one of the reasons why we selected Laserfiche in the first place, was Shakib's plan to allow customers who are already logged into basically a customer portal And they may have sent in things. There's going to be some forms that must be notarized, things like that. So there's some paper that we're, until something else changes, we're going to be stuck with. And those will continue to come in to the agency and get scanned and put into Laserfiche. We'd like to have that, it already has an account number on it. We already have the account number in our web-based system, so we'd like to be able to have the customers be able to pull up those forms if there's any questions, like, oh, well, here's the form you sent in 3 years ago saying that you want to add your wife as a survivor for your account. So that's still on our to-do list. We have a to-do list that stretches off into the infinity as far as I'm concerned, and so there's a lot of room for improvement, but made a good start and really have appreciated the tools and what they've allowed us to do. And with that, I'm going to hand off to Kim, who's going to cover some of the workflow stuff that they've set up and really well honed at this point.
Yeah. Hi there. I would like to talk a little bit about some background before I get into my little demo of our workflow. I work for the Guaranteed Education Tuition Program, which is also known as the GET program, which takes up about a quarter of our agency, I think, and we brought Laserfiche in first. And one of our first workflows that we implemented was for our applications to open new accounts. So prior to having Laserfiche, when these applications would come in, they would be scanned, and they're typically a 4-page document. Sometimes there's more, sometimes there's less. It depends if there's other documents that come in with it. In our legacy system, we weren't allowed to have more than one image per document, and they were only able to be indexed by Social Security number, so that is the only way that you could retrieve them. And if you wanted to retrieve an application out of the system, then you would have to go find all 4 pages individually. So now, with having Laserfiche and having workflow, we're able to scan everything that comes in with that application as one document. And we also now have the ability, because of all the different metadata that we can add to each document, several different ways that we can search for it. So with that being said, we've created 28 workflows total, and we use 12 different templates, and we utilize 42 tags. So we use tags a lot in our system for workflow decisions, routing decisions. So, and I'll get in a little bit more to that. And then I also just added a note on there too, that one of our most recent additions to using Laserfiche and converting a process over is our expiration of units process for accounts. And we used to track all of that in an Excel spreadsheet, and now it's solely tracked in Laserfiche. It starts in Laserfiche and stays in Laserfiche, and so we're able to easily track at what stage they're at in that 6-month process. So let's start with the enrollments. So we receive anywhere from 7,000 to 12,000 enrollments each traditional enrollment year, and about 10% of those come in by paper. So that's either through the mail, it's through walk-in, it's fax, it's been lockbox. In our old system, if it came in electronically through email or through fax, we'd have to print that document in order to scan it in. There was no way to just drag and drop like we can now or print it into Laserfiche. So now, if they come in electronically, they stay that way. We just drag them right in or print them into Laserfiche, and we don't have to print those. Let's see. Okay, so forms come in all these different, excuse me, all these different ways, and they are scanned or printed into Laserfiche, and then the document is indexed by the scanner, and tags are added accordingly if there's a credit card on it or an ACH or something like that. And then the document gets run through QuickFields, and the real-time lookup gets run, which I think Shakib will talk a little bit more about. So I want to talk a little bit about, again, I'm sorry I'm going back and forth, but I want to be able to demonstrate how key it was for us to switch over to Laserfiche and how that's really improved for us. So in our old system, these forms would all be placed into a batch, anywhere from 1 application to 25 applications, and they would go through each stage. They would get scanned, and then they would go to somebody for all the people to be created, and then they would go to somebody else for the accounts to be set up. And then if there was 25 applications in the batch, but there was one app that had a credit card, then that entire batch would have to physically go over to the finance section. And then when they would get to the credit card, they would charge the credit card, and then the batch would physically go to the manager so that they could audit that that credit card was in fact charged to the proper account in the right amount. And then after that, it would come back to records to be filed. So there was 24 other applications in that batch that really didn't need to be passed around to somebody's desk. So now that we have Laserfiche, if there's a batch of 25 but only one has a credit card, only that one application shoots off to finance after we've set the account up for the credit card, and everything else just stays right in Laserfish and gets filed. It's complete. So it is absolutely increased the security of our customers' information. Their social security numbers, their credit card information, their bank information, their names, their addresses, all of those things are no longer being, routed around everybody's desk. So that was a really big, really big win for us. So once these applications get scanned and they get indexed, the TRM workflow picks them up and puts the original into a retention folder. And then the original documents are only able to be viewed by our records department. So once that hits the retention folder, it invokes the enrollment workflow. And then the enrollment workflow creates 2 shortcuts. And one shortcut gets routed to a folder we call customer get, and that is really internal customers. So our customer service department, our finance department, everybody else in get is able to see that shortcut. We don't let them have access to the original document. And then another shortcut gets created that goes to the end users folder for processing, for setting up the account. So I gave a little snapshot there of kind of what that section of the workflow looks like. It's kind of an intense looking workflow. So then once the application gets processed, there's more metadata added, like the account number, because at the time that we set it up, we can't use the general template, which pulls the account number. So once that happens, and then they verify that all the tags and everything are set properly, they didn't miss a credit card tag or an ACH tag or whatever, then the person would mark it complete. So I gave a little picture over there of what they put in. And then if any of the tags are set, once they mark it complete, then it would route to the folder that it needs to go to for processing. And if no tags are set, then the shortcut key, or the shortcut is deleted. And then that's it for that one. I think this is yours. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and let Shakib talk about his part, all the fun integrations.
Morning. If I twitch a bit, I haven't worn a suit in about 5 years, so that's why. Okay, so my name is Shakib Kamal. I hate paper. I will literally chase you around the office asking you why you're holding it. If you give me a piece of paper, I will probably tell you to email it to me. So Laserfish has actually given us the tools so someone like me can have a clean desk with just junk on it and not paper. So as I said, I'm the solutions architect for the Guaranteed Education Tuition Program. I used to actually work for SCT, who was the original creators of Banner, and SCT got bought out, and then those people got bought out, and I actually don't know who owns them anymore. But I still deal with Banner on a daily basis. We actually work with third party, which I used to be kind of part of at one point, the College Savings Network, College Savings Systems, I think is what they call themselves. And basically, Banner is the large student system that colleges use. The College Savings Systems has put their stuff on top of that and modded it so that it can be used for the 529 plan. So to start out, one of the first things I actually had to do was try to figure out how we get around using their web interface. I don't know if anybody's ever seen this, but it's an Oracle product called the Web Toolkit, which basically is the database generating the HTML code that then gets piped to the server, to the people looking at it. So it's a nightmare. So one of the first things I tried to do was say, okay, well, forget about the old system, forget about forms. I hate forms too. I want to have a .NET-based, dynamic system that anybody can look at. One of them being our online customers. We have 75,000 or so actual purchasers. They're all able to log in, check their account, pay bills, do distributions. Everything has to be done online through a current system. The other part that I'm involved in is the administrative side, where you can log in as an administrator and have access to all the information that is in Banner in the back end. So one of the first things that I needed to look at was with Laserfish is, does it have a good SDK? And that was one of our biggest requirements when we went in and said, we're going to do an RFP. We need someone to come in and show us what can you do, what can I do in terms of integration. And I'm not talking about a button that you can press that'll print out something into the Laserfish system, or kind of, there are different levels of integration. I didn't want anything that's that connected. I wanted something that was completely integrated, meaning I can go into the guts of Laserfish and say, I'm looking for this document, give it to me, and not only do I want it in a PNG format that I can show as a library on my web page. So one of the first things I tackled was we decided that we wanted to have support tickets, and you all know about support tickets, I'm sure, being in IT. So I built my own support ticket system, and basically what I did was figure out a way to attach Laserfish documents to a ticket. Now this is that superficial integration I'm talking about, where we're using it internally. Everybody actually has a client, but I want to be able to say, okay, I'm sending you some secure data about a certain contract, and here's an attachment of the document we're talking about. Now, we don't want to use email because we are a public institution and a public agency, and those things are actually accessible, which means you have to go redact, all that stuff. So basically, I wanted to be able to attach a document to my portal system to say, hey, you have mail, here's the issue, please click here, and what that would do is take you off, open your client up, and show it to you. The other one that I actually worked on just recently is forms, and David actually talked about this a little bit. People come in and they say, I want to change my benefit use year. And what we say is, here you go, here's a great online form that you can download, print out, write down your name on it, put a stamp on it, send it back to us, and about 2 weeks later, it might be done, and onwards. So that's paper, I hate it, so it must go away. So what we ended up doing was saying, all right, let's do online form. Now, there's different levels of integration. We could also have online tools to do this, but there are a lot of times that we have forms and operations that need human intervention, and I don't want to do it directly into Banner itself. So, for example, the change of purchaser. Yeah, we could write a system which you'd go in, you put in all the information, press submit, and the change of purchaser happens automatically. No forms necessary. However, change of purchaser is a big deal, and I actually don't want to do that on my side. So I'd rather have Kim or someone else responsible for that. So what we do is we say, okay, here's a web form. Oh, I had this. Okay, I probably should have looked at my slides before I started talking. All right, let's talk about this first. This is the support tickets I was mentioning before. If I speak too fast, just let me know. I kind of just keep shooting. So here's a support ticket. This is a support ticket sent to the STIT group. That's just an internal addressing system that I kind of made up. And as you can see there, we have a little associate. I have to be in the light. We have associate documents text field. And what they can do there is put their, so this is our portal, by the way. So what they can do there is put the number of the entity ID into that field and just press tab. And what that'll do, once the ticket is created and you open it again, is say, okay, here's the ticket Shakib K created. There are two ways of getting to this Laserfish document. One is a generated image, okay? So I'm thinking, all right, you're either at home or you're at work. If you're at work, you can just click on the bottom one over there that says information release person authorization test, right? You can click on that and it'll open up your Laserfish client, and lo and behold, there's your form that you were talking about that this ticket is related to. The top one is an image that gets generated. So if you click on the preview, what it'll do is go back to my .NET server, talk to Laserfish and say, hey, give me a preview image of this document. And that basically is a PNG or a JPEG or however you want to do it. Laserfish actually lets you export it however you want. And then I actually bring that back to my client and say, boop, here's the image, okay? So no client necessary in this case. Now, I know, Laserfish actually has great online access, web access, I think is what's called, and web links to do this. The one thing I didn't want to do is though use frames, iframes. I just don't like them for some reason. Also, I didn't want to open a new tab. I wanted this to be completely integrated, as if there's no such thing happening in the background which talks to different servers. So that's why this is happening. This was one of my major concerns. And when we're looking at other imaging systems, they could not do this. They can't let me come into their server, say, I have an entity ID, show me what that image looks like. Not without having their proprietary interface come up. So this was really important to me because I want, we have complete integration with Banner. I intend to have complete integration with any other products I use. Okay, so how was this done? The integration to Laserfiche using the SDK. Again, as I said, one of the requirements that I had was show us your SDK when we were looking for vendors. And Laserfiche, along with Cities Digital VAR, who's our VAR, were able to immediately hand it over. And it was thorough. As a lot of the developers have told you, if you've been to the SDK classes, they use the same SDK. So we really can't complain. So the online web forms, that's the one I was talking about before. This is how it works. The customer comes in over the portal. They come in. There's some internal processing that happens on our Banner database. Goes off and generates a PDF of the document. Okay? So this is a straight HTML document that gets pushed into our server. I created a PDF out of it using some other tool that I have. I use the SDK, Laserfiche SDK, to then connect to the Laserfiche server, and then I send the PDF that I created using the HTML file that was HTML page that they filled in to push the document into Laserfiche and thereby into workflow. And we do that for all of our stuff. And the cool part is, from the customer's point of view, all they're doing is filling in a web form, just straight web form. We take that information, and since we have logged in, I have all that metadata. I don't have to have anybody key anything in. So I go out and I say, okay, well, let's create a PDF, because that's kind of what we do nowadays. And then from there, I'm going to create the Laserfiche document, LFDoc, and fill in all the metadata. What's their account number? What's their PIDM? What associated contracts do they have? What's their address? Anything I can get, put it into the metadata field, and now it's there for them without having to key in anything with all the pertinent data, and we didn't have to really do anything besides let the customer log in. So it's an amazing system. So here's an example. This is our new dashboard. As you can see, we have like online forms there as a div. You come into the online forms and you're going to see your previous forms that you have submitted online. And eventually I want to get to a point where, I start showing them stuff maybe that they sent in through paper, but I just don't want to quite want to just jump all in right away. So we're starting small. We're saying, okay, these are the online forms available: gifter, authorization, information release, etc. And the little workflow sign or the little gear sign just means it's being processed. And that I'm actually still working on, where basically we take that information and we process it on our end, where we accept it, and it goes through the KIMS workflow there. And once it's done, it'll become one of these little icons here, which if you click on, you just basically see that. On the right, okay, so this is the actual form. If you click up top. And once you click up top and you fill in your information, I actually shove in all the data, relevant data here. Like PIDM there is our major ID, entity ID, or however you want to call it. That's our major ID that we use to look up everything. Once that's been processed and you come back and you say, oh, that authorization form, is it done? You go over there and you click on the icon and you actually get a PNG image of the form that you submitted. Any questions so far? Okay, excellent. Oh, okay. Yeah.
You're going to stick with this?
We do have intent to do that, but for different things. My concern right now is not having a kind of a stitched together system. I want complete integration, and the forms is great. We're actually going to probably end up using that for a bunch of internal stuff. The problem is it's a different server. I'm sure there's ways to embed it, but for now I'm going to stick to this because really all I have to do on my end is write an HTML form. I've been in the business for about 25 years. I've done that a bunch of times, and I can probably knock one out pretty quick. The back-end stuff is really what I'm interested in, is when I get that form, basically I get a list of form variables when they submit, and I say, okay, what do I want to do with this? And I'll talk about a little bit more about the workflow integration too that I want to get into eventually.
Sure, thanks.
Actually, don't know how many slides I have left. So as you can see, we have been using this really only for about 6 months, and this is what we've been able to achieve in only 6 months. And I took a class before we started Laserfish, so yeah, I didn't remember any of it. So when I went back, I actually talked to our VARs and I looked at the documentation, and Laserfish support is amazing. They get back to you right away. And our VARs are actually really good too. So actually that's who I call first, and they call Laserfish if there's an issue. So I'm not going to read this out to you because you can probably get it somewhere else. I'm going to just talk a little bit about the future plans. And since people are actually interested in how Banner how I'm planning to integrate Banner, I figured I'll mention it. So one of the things I decided like 2 days ago, since I found out it can be done, is to integrate directly into workflow. So right now what happens is, say this form comes in, and Kim looks at it and puts it up on her screen, and it says it's a change of authorization form, or it's a add a new person to your account form. She goes up, pulls up Banner, which is a form, an Oracle form, which is connected to an Oracle database, and she creates that person, and that's great. But now we're using this manual step. So I'm like, okay, well, workflow is already there, and I can plug into workflow. And the Banner database is mine to do with it as I please, because I already do create people on the system through the .NET portal that I have. Registration, all that stuff already happens. So I already have the business objects and the data layer objects all set up. So what I will want to do next, actually, getting deeper into it, is letting workflow do things directly into Banner. So I don't know, good example would be, say, I want to update my address. Okay, you really don't need someone to sit there and say, yes, update the address. Let me pull up a form. Let me type the address in. So we got partial automation all the way up to the electronic form, and then we suddenly have to have someone sit there and type it out, which is not cost effective. So what I'm thinking is, all right, you have your workflow, and we'll have a specific workflow for address changes. And it'll come in and use OCR, because guess what? These are all typed. I have all this data already. We'll use OCR or whatever we want to use to pipe it directly into Banner. So I'll get the information from Laserfish in the workflow, because we know what the address is that they're trying to change it to, send that information out to either a web service that I will write or something, I haven't decided yet, and it will update the address. The workflow will then take over once I set some flag saying it's done, because that's how it works, right? That you change a specific flag or you add a tag, workflow will know that, okay, the system has now created it. It'll go off, email Kim saying, by the way, an address was changed, record kept, go into retention, whatever. And that is actually where I want to be with Laserfish. I think I am good. All right. How much time? 7 minutes left? Wow. All right, questions? Yeah.
We're actually recording the presentations. I really appreciate if you can speak into the mic.
Do you already have workflow integration, or are you planning to do that?
Well, the integration that I was talking about, where we do, I'm planning to do it.
Is that something that you're going to use a script for? Or are you going to use SQL activities? I mean,
I will use whatever I have to. I have to check, but it is written in C#. And I actually spoke to a developer during lunch, and he told me that it's a C# product. I can actually include my own libraries, which is powerful, because we've been writing this stuff for 10 years, so I have all the objects I need to do everything, really.
I see. And the portal that you mentioned, is that portal your own thing, or is it Banner?
It's mine.
Banner, okay.
And that's basically how I got around the issue of Banner. Is how do we get to a point where everything is off of the website and we're not using the web toolkit. Is I wrote my own ASP.NET C# that just layers off on top of it. It was actually kind of interesting because I started about 10 years ago, and when I first wrote it, I had to figure out a way to do a single sign-on with the old system, because I can't write all 50 pages in one go. So we replace a section at a time. So how do we how do we not have two sign-ins to two different products and make it look seamless? So one of the things I had to figure out when I first joined was how to do a single sign-on. So I'll take over the sign-on process, and then in the back ends, put in all the cookies and stuff needed for Barron to believe that it was signed in. So it was interesting. But now we're fully .NET. It's our own homegrown system. And we're basically, I've been trying to just get rid of the forms. Because there's a lot of maintenance to forms, and it's not necessarily the best thing. So we're actually replacing forms with web pages. And since I said we have customer service has a portal, and it's all the same thing. I call it different things because naming stuff is fun. So that's what we've been doing.
All right, thanks.
Yeah. Anybody else? Should we talk about how we hate paper? No? All right. All right. Well, if nobody has, oh yeah. Okay, awesome.
Well, my question is, how do you do single sign-on to Laserfish from your portal?
Oh, to Laserfish? Oh, that wasn't hard at all. It's in the SDK. It's literally 3 lines of code. The single sign-on to Banner was a lot harder.
So your users authenticate to the portal using Windows authentication already?
No. Well, no. They have their own, because we have about 70,000 customers. They come in, they register, create a login. It's a .NET login. Once they're in, we use a server agent basically to connect. So the system connecting to Laserfish is the same person, regardless of whether you connect to the portal or I connect to the portal.
So you use a service account?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's a named Laserfish account, right?
This question might be more for Kim.
Okay. I'm getting hot anyway, so she can.
Stand up. I need you in the light. No, when you introduced to your colleagues, your coworkers, did you struggle at all with this change of process? Was it openly embraced, or are there still some folks that maybe been there a while, got used to the way that things always worked, and didn't like the change? How was that? Give me some of that experience when y'all launched this.
Within our program, within the GET program, everybody was pretty welcoming for the most part. And with Laserfish being so like Windows, it was pretty easy for everybody to understand and navigate through. And my unit, specifically the records unit that does all the scanning and processing of the forms, was super excited to learn and use the system, because our legacy system, images were like disappearing daily, and we were having to have David go back and look at tapes to like restore those images like every single day. So we were actually all really excited. We knew it was going to be a while to be comfortable with it, but we were excited to have something new where our images were going to be there when we needed them to be there. So that wasn't so bad. The struggle right now is we're trying to roll out to the rest of the agency, as David kind of mentioned, and we're having a little bit of trouble getting them to buy in because they really love their paper. They really love their paper. So we're trying. We challenged them. I think it was last week we challenged the director of budget and accounting, and we handed him our keys to our filing cabinet and said, go, there's 3 of them right there. Keys, open all of them, pick a document, any document, from the bottom, from the top, from the middle, from the side. I don't care. Pick one, we will show you. We will show you every way that you can search for it. And it's there, I promise. You'll be able to see what the status is, who worked on it, what date it came in, any annotations that have been on it. We'll show you. And he was like, okay. And then, so we did it, and he was like, oh, well. We said, go get another one. No, that's not necessary. So we're trying. So that's our hurdle right now. They really love their paper. So, but we're working on them. And we tell them all the time how much we love Laserfish, and it's made our lives so much easier. So much easier. No more missing images, no more lost applications, no more physically walking around the office looking through stacks of paper on people's desks. So it's great.
I was just gonna ask, have you showed him, I'm pretty sure him dealing with budgets and finances, that the labor intensity of having to have so many people sign off on documents, having to issue checks and issue different invoices, the labor part of it, have you guys showed him that have you integrated in workflow processes, like business processes part of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of ongoing challenges trying to get people on board, and you know, like Kim said, their area they were very excited to move forward, and other areas too. Probably about 3/4 of our agency has just jumped at the chance. Not everyone, and so we, you know, he manages the people that have this, you know, this area, but still, it's just kind of, I think it's a fear of change, and
I think it's probably a commonality of everybody in this room
Yeah.
that has anything to do with Laserfish. But personally, what we have found as of probably last year or going forward as a good tool to bring everybody is to try to get everybody in a room maybe for 30 minutes and find out what would you like to, what don't you like about your job, as far as labor intensity.
I don't know if we want to go there.
I mean, not necessarily not like about your job, but what's the most challenging part of your day? Because to make someone enjoy their job by being able to use a software that can really change their life. Like I have clients call me like, you don't know how close I was to retiring. You guys saved me. Just find out. That's how I approach it. How do you? What part is the labor intensive? What don't you like? And how can we help you? And that, if you get everybody in the room and figure out what, and start like that, it'll work for you.
All right. Well, yeah, that's a good suggestion. You know, our approach is, you know, to keep trying. You know, we fail a lot. We like to fail. You know, fast is the goal, and keep trying something else. So we're confident we'll get there. But I like the suggestion. And yeah, like you're saying, it really has changed a lot of people's jobs. You know, Kim is a zealot. So she's very, you know, she really promotes Laserfish within the agency because it does save them so much time, and it changes the jobs from things that, you know, like, you know, hating your job because you're forced to, you know, go through stacks of paper, to your job now becomes designing a workflow, and you can see, you know, the results of what you do, and it really helps other people, and it's really transformed areas that have really gotten into it and embraced it. So we're still working on it.
Everybody who uses Laserfish has a role, feels important.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
do software now.
Yeah, exactly. So,
So do we have more questions?
a couple more questions in the back.
Great.
Just wondering what your return has been on manpower and money saved.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure. You know, what from our perspective is we've been going through years of, you know, financial downturn. You know, we're dealing with state budgets that have shrunk a lot, and so, you know, mostly we were very fortunate, you know, and our leadership was able to, you know, not have to do any layoffs, but it did usually mean that when somebody left, we didn't get to refill a position. So for the most part, what we've been able to do with technology is just keep our heads above water and keep up with the increasing demands, because the fact that there's less budget, less people, doesn't mean there's less work. There's usually a lot more work. And so in the GET program in particular, you know, really, there's a lot of things. It's the work that Shakib does, as well as Laserfish. But you know, I don't think they've expanded the head count since the economy collapsed in 2008. So we've actually just been able to keep up with huge spikes. You know, during those years when the economy was down, tuition really took a jump. And so enrollments for this GET program, it's a prepaid tuition program. So you buy at today's, you know, prices, and then it stays good no matter what. And the state of Washington is kind of unique in that they guarantee it. It's called the Guaranteed Education Tuition. So no matter what the increase. But they didn't count on 21% tuition increases over multiple years. The whole model was over 7%. So it just really threw things into chaos and just drove these enormous spikes in enrollment that went just through the roof. And so the workload was just, you know, fantastically increased, and we were able to keep doing it with the same number of people. So that's kind of our measure is we're still okay. We're still around, and we're still doing all right.
You mentioned that initially using Laserfish, that there was problems with dropping items into folders and then totally losing the folder by, I don't know if it was in Laserfish or in Windows or where that was happening, but Laserfish is kind of structured like Windows, and I was wondering if building the workflows, if that's what helped you to eliminate those types of errors where employees might put something in the wrong folder within Laserfish or Windows, and is that how you eliminated those problems?
Well, for the most part, yeah, some of that is is just built into Windows, because people do drag documents around, and some of the disappearing documents were with our old imaging system. But yeah, definitely workflow is a good tool to to structure that and make sure that things go into the right place, in the right status, and to let you know if there is a problem with it. So that has definitely helped with that. So yeah, it's been a valuable tool to try and make sure things go in the right place, end up in the right status.
How much of that was resolved with security and rights to the different folders, if any?
I don't know. Do you want to? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a big part of it, is making sure that only the right people have access to those folders. Like I said, everything is in transparent records management, using that process so it all ends up in the records retention folders with only shortcuts to the places where people need to see it. And yeah, and the workflows do 100% of the moving documents around. So trying to eliminate where the human error side of things. Oh, all right. Here you go, Kim.
You can stay in your seat. On one of your slides, you talked about where you were able to you used to use Excel to track the status of your, I guess it was the applications or whatever it was.
It's our expiration process.
And now you do it in Laserfish, and we have some similar we use a lot of Excel to track status of various things. I was curious, how are you doing that exactly? Is there a field that's just status, and then how would you present that information in an organized fashion for like a board or managers to see on the screen?
Do you want to answer this? It's really all Melissa.
Okay.
It really is. This is Melissa Huster. She works with me in the records department for GET.
Thanks, Melissa.
Yeah, no problem. It's a little bit complicated to look at, but we have a 5-step process over 6 months. So at 6 months, they get a letter, and then 4 months, we call them. 3 months and 2 months, they get letters each, and then 30 days before we absorb their units, we call them again. So we had this all in a very complicated Excel document. And what I basically did was created folders for each of those, and it added a status. So when the 180-day letter's been sent, it moves to the callback letter or callback folder, da-da-da. But if for some reason they change the Benny or they do something to remove it from the process, then if you pull up that document, it only has the fields that they were in. So if they made it to the 90-day letter and then they terminated it, that's all that would show up, and it would be very easy to see where it ended in the process.
And that makes sense. If you wanted to get a quick snapshot, just an overview of a status of a group of documents, or how are you able to accomplish that? Because obviously in Excel you can kind of quickly filter. Are you doing like just a search, like an advanced search or something on the screen?
You can search by field.
And then just do it that way, and then present that to whoever needs. You can write it out to. Okay, great.
And it's also still in the folders.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to see everyone, every account that's in the 60-day, you just
yeah. No, I was thinking of like a reportable where you have to get it out of Laserfish and distribute it as part of a board, a board package or something like that. I was just curious. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Anything else?
Do we have more questions? We have enough time. I wish that in California we have this type of agencies. I need to look into it. Guaranteed tuition, huh? Fantastic. All right, well, if we don't have any more questions, let's give them another round of applause for a fantastic session. Thank you very much. And so we'll see you back in here at 11 o'clock. We have Gerard, who's also another Run Smarter Award winner, who's also the keynote speaker on the stage today, to give you an inside look into how they map out their workflow strategy. All right, we will see you very soon. Thank you.